the waiter's like, have you heard what's happening? And they go, we hear very little and we understand even less.
That's you the whole movie?
That was me the second half of this movie. Like, I hear very little and I understand even less.
Welcome to The Big Room, a movie podcast by non-movie people. I'm here with Danielle, Nick,
hello,
and Carl.
Hey.
And this week's movie is Casablanca. If you did not watch episode 0 with the horrible audio that I apologize for, our mics are in now. We are doing a new movie every single week. That was my New Year's resolution for this year, 2023. And in my tiny popcorn bucket, we have little tickets like this that I wrote 52 movies on, and it took me 20 minutes to do that. And we pull at the end of every episode. We will pull next week's movie. And last week we pulled Casablanca, so we watched a super old movie that was all in black and white, and everybody had fun, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a great time.
Foreshadowing.
We'll see.
Intrigue and drama.
So let's open with kind of a expectations. What did you expect going in? I know I have this preconceived notion, I guess, this really unfair view of old movies that I thought they all would be like crappily acted and poorly filmed and really boring.
I expected everything to just be shaky and gross.
Yeah, really unsteady. But I mean, there was a solid. It seems like there's a solid movie industry already in the 40s. So I was pretty blown away. It was much better than I expected. What did y'all think?
I was really excited for this one because they reference it a lot on Gilmore Girls, and it's like Lorelai Gilmore's favorite movie. So, and I watched Gilmore Girls at least 3 to 4 times a year. So I've been really excited to see it and kind of see what it was all about. So, and I really enjoyed it.
I shake my head at that as if I don't watch Parks and Rec like 6 times a year.
See, you got to watch your favorite shows.
Well, at least Parks and Rec is good. Nick, what'd you think about
Rude.
What'd you think about what did you think going in?
I intentionally didn't watch a trailer. I didn't read anything about it. I had no idea. You like briefly mentioned to me the other night that it was a war movie, and that was news. I expected it to be really crappy, like really crappily filmed, but it wasn't. It was actually great. I don't know. I didn't love it.
Yep.
And I was just as lost as I thought I would be.
You were lost. Okay.
Huh.
Carl?
I mean, I had no idea what it was going to be about. Like, I read the description on HBO Max, and I was like, okay, a guy has a cafe and his long lost love kind of returns, and it's like, okay, I guess this is a love story set in like war-torn Africa or whatever. So yeah, I didn't really have any expectation, but yeah, I was pretty blown away with the cinematography, and just the storytelling. Like some of the dialogue was a little dated. Nobody talks like that. It wasn't very conversational. It definitely seemed a little bit written, I guess.
Sure.
It read like a novel, or it acted out like a novel. But yeah, overall, I was like, I really enjoyed it. I could tell like this was something like, and I know the the time it came was perfect for like what it was. So I don't know. I tried to watch, I watched it a few times because I'm so dense. I have to do it a million times to actually get it and absorb it all. And then I probably watched like 5 or 6 different reviews. So I tried to like get a bunch of different because I don't know what's going on. I'm not a smart person at all, so I had to get other people that were smart to kind of tell me what was happening to give me the significance. But I think at this point, like, I have a kind of a deeper understanding of the movie, and I'm like, I'm really impressed with how they kind of came together with it, because we're so, now everything's like green screen and kind of computer generated, and it's like this was before that was even conceivable, and they were still able to kind of achieve effects and make a cultural impact.
It's funny that you mentioned the dialogue feeling like scripty.
Yeah, see?
Because I hope I'm not stealing one of Nick's facts. It was based off of a unproduced stage play.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Dang it.
I stole one at X Facts. So I had to actually go to Wikipedia to see if I remember that right. But that was something that stuck out to me when I was doing my research a little bit. I also had to do research because this movie's old AF.
Well,
You almost
and
have to in order to
watching
get
it.
Go ahead.
Watching it, I was like, this feels like a play. Like, I thought it felt like a play. It's filmed like a play.
Yeah.
It's very clearly a set. Like, they
Lots
don't
of-
have it in a way
Yes.
Lots
That
of
was-
old
not feel like a set.
films.
A
Lots
couple of the things I watched were like this movie was very theater. Like it was like, you know, the dialogue, even the sets, it was like an homage to theater. It was like very obviously on a set. But
Yep.
people back then didn't quite expect the sort of realism that we kind of expect nowadays
Sure.
with like visual effects. So like it's funny how those kind of shifts changed our cultures. Like now, if something's like fake, we're like, oh, we can tell it's computer generated. Whereas back then, they just were like, yeah, you know, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I think
you're not gonna
that-
get a plane on the stage.
I think that extends past just this movie because I've been watching a lot of, granted, not old as this one, but a lot of old movies in the past couple months. And Nick, you watched this one at this at around the same time I did. We watched White Christmas, and that also felt very stage-ish, especially in the early war scenes. And I was
when they're
reading
supposed to be outside.
Exactly.
And they're clearly inside.
And they're clearly inside, and that
Just
was
the
the same with
backdrop,
Guys and Dolls that we watched. That what was it, the Cuba scenes, the
Yeah.
Havana scenes were like, that's a set. And I was reading something, or maybe it was a TikTok. I don't know. I get all my news from TikTok. I'm a youth. About how one of the main differences between modern cinema and older cinema, and why older cinema feels old to us, is the shots are very long, they're very unbroken, and there's lots of long dialogue with a single shot instead of just camera change to keep us stimulated. It is more like theater put on a screen, and less like, you know, this is a movie. Even though that's what movies were
Although
back then.
I'll interject and say that this movie did have a lot of cuts. Like there were a lot of scenes. Like even the very beginning was like chop 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 chop. So like the
And
editing
they were
of this movie,
noticeable at some point.
Well,
yeah,
and
the editing of this movie was very, you know, I was like, wow, they really put a lot into this, because it was like chop 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 chop, and then you would get those scenes with like extended dialogue for effect or what, you know, literary merit or whatever. But yeah, there was a lot of hard cuts in this movie.
to kind of get into the film a little bit, one of the things that made me giggle at the beginning was kind of the establishing shots of it's the war and blah blah blah, and there was one where they did like a globe kind of shot to show you where we were,
God.
and I'm like, that looked like they filmed like an
fakest.
actual globe. Like,
Yeah.
like I know, like
now we know the Earth is flat,
Yeah.
so it's kind of funny seeing.
There were so many things in this movie where I was like, I don't know if this was because it was cheap, because it was made on a super low budget.
yeah, and it was
like-
rushed to production.
And it was super rushed. So like, I don't know if some of this stuff was just cheaply made, or it was like an artistic decision.
Yeah,
It
I
comes
liked
across
the globe in the
as-
beginning. I mean, I wasn't expecting realism. I was just like, you know, I just needed some kind of reference, some visual kind of cue. So I don't know. I wasn't really expecting, you know, a shot of the Earth from space. You know, I guess.
yeah,
But,
and it was
but I really liked it because I thought that kind of gave, you know, it gave you kind of a visual scope. It's like, here's the entire world, and here's this whole section they're having to cross this, you know, like this impossible path. And just kind of sets you up with like the sort of expectation and kind of mindset of where these people are at. It's like they've traveled this entire distance and now they've landed here, and
Yeah.
who knows what kind of stage is set. So
and a lot of it I had to kind of explain to I didn't kind of, maybe I just mansplained because I do that all the time.
Mansplain is whenever you explain things.
All right,
that are
Nick.
Very clear.
Alrighty.
So I'm not a historian, but I am kind of a war nerd. I had a little bit, a lot of the set pieces, I guess a lot of the information around the setting kind of implies knowledge of the war, especially since, I mean, it was released in 1942. They rushed it into release because of the Allied invasion of North Africa. So I guess at this point in the war, and they go over this with the whole love story in the middle of the movie, is that France is being invaded and is occupied by Germany at this point. And then what the Germans do is set up a puppet government in France called Vichy France, which is, they mention Vichy France a lot in the movie. And that's just a German puppet government in mainland France. And then Morocco, as a French colony, territory, whatever it may be, was then Vichy France controlled. So that's kind of the background. Casablanca being a haven kind of for refugees. They explain at the beginning of the movie, people hoping to get illegal visas to gain their way into America, because Europe is wild in the 1940s and late 30s. So we're kind of introduced there to a bunch of hubbub in this Moroccan quote unquote paradise. Like, it looked pretty neat, but also everybody that's there is bummed out to be there.
Yeah, given the
also a
circumstances.
Given the
No
circumstances,
one
and it's a
wants to
desert.
be there.
Nobody wants to be there except Rick. And
Rick.
so they're all looking for illegal visas, and then we got our guy Rick Blaine, I believe, who is played by Humphrey Bogart, who is going to be in, I believe, 3 other movies that we watch as a part of this year, at least 2,
Nice.
which is great because I freaking loved him. He owns
I'm glad it was him, because he was the best part of it.
100%. He owns this cafe that I can't remember what it's called.
I think it's just
I think
called
it's
Rick's.
called
Rick's
Rick's.
place.
Yeah.
Rick's something.
Rick's place.
Yeah. I
What was
think
the
it
original
Rick's.
play called? Everyone comes to Rick's place or something like that. Yeah.
Yes. Everybody comes to Rick's. Is what it was
Everyone comes
called.
to Rick's. Pretty close.
So, and they mentioned that he's allowed to remain open under this Vichy French government, because he hasn't sold any illegal visas. That's why he hasn't been shut down. And it's made abundantly clear early on that he is absolutely neutral in all things. Like, this dude will not take a stance on anything.
He doesn't stick his neck out for anyone else.
That's
He's
right.
Not into politics.
The only stance he has is, you do not play as time goes by in my bar. That's it. That's all.
I did notice that he does have kind of that classic Hollywood like male lead trope of like, I'm kind of mysterious,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah,
I'm not
watching
good,
this-
but I'm
yeah.
not bad. Like, he ripped up the German check and went and take
Well,
the
like,
German
he definitely
money.
puts up the
And-
front of like, I'm a tough guy with I
Yeah.
don't. But he's like, and deep
then
down,
he's
it's the
sobbing.
Han Solo trope. It's like,
Yeah.
he says he's a tough guy, but deep down,
Yeah.
you know he's good.
I said that
But you
at
see
one
that
point.
Same archetype in so many movies.
I was
but it
like, is this
interesting
where they
to
got
see
Han
an
Solo
early
from?
edition of it, like.
Right.
Right. So one thing I had to tell myself throughout the entire movie, because I kept going, oh my god, this is so cheesy, or I've seen this 1,000 times. This story is played out 1,000 times in 1,000 movies. But like, this might have been the first.
Right.
Like, I don't think
Yeah.
those like,
It was
movie
early on, for
stereotypes
sure.
were there.
At least for film.
Yeah.
At least for film.
At least for
Yeah.
film. Yeah. So, we've got, amidst the hustle and bustle in Casablanca, we've got the announcement of there's been 2 murdered German couriers. And they've got visas that are signed by, I guess, the leader of the Vichy government
Somebody
or something
important.
like that. Somebody important.
Legendary letters of transit.
Letters of transit that basically get you through borders without question by the German and fake French government. And then that those letters were not found on the dead couriers. So that's kind of our first like mystery or kind of plot device very early on. And then, some Germans come to town, ruin the vibe in the bar, with our cool guy Sam playing piano.
He was
Sam's
the
great.
coolest. We
yeah.
stan a Sam who stands by his man. Samwise Gamgee.
That's right.
Sam,
Oh,
this
there's
guy.
a lot of good Sams.
I can't think of any other ones off the top of my head, but it's just
There's got to be more.
there's got to be more.
Yep. We've got the police guy kind of schmoozing around doing stuff, and then we meet this
Renault.
character, Ugarte was his name, right?
Ugarte. Yep.
And
He's the kind of sleazy guy that may or may
He
not
is.
have come across these letters of transit by questionable means.
that's right. And he gives them to our guy Rick to hold on to. And Rick's like, I don't want to hold on to these for a while. And he's like, just for a little bit.
Yeah, which even that is like the first clue that like Rick is a decent guy. Because what benefit does taking these things, these illegal, like he can get in so much trouble just for having them.
That's right.
Like so like the fact that he takes them is, and the fact that Ugarte trusts him with it is also interesting. It's like this guy that he knows, he says, just because you don't like me, or just you're the one that, like, I've got tons of friends, but the fact that you don't like me makes me think you're the one to trust with. Yeah, which is interesting. But
here's the thing: we meet this guy at the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah,
and he has these tickets, and he comes up to Rick. He's like, "I need you to hold these. I'm going to sell them tonight to 2 people, and it's going to make me richer than I've ever been. And once I'm rich, I'm out of here."
Yeah.
Okay. Why did he not just use them for himself?
Because then he's not rich.
I never thought about that.
Movie over. Done. Like, why didn't he just put his name on the tickets, get on the plane, and go? Why does he have to sell them?
Well, maybe Rich was like, I'm so loaded that I can do whatever I want and get out of and afford to get out of here.
Maybe because everybody's for once he leaves.
At this point, Rich, he didn't want to leave.
Rick doesn't want to leave, but he's saying Ugarte.
Ugarte.
Yeah, well, he wants the money though.
Exactly.
I think he likes the life he's living
Right.
in Casablanca.
It must be a lot of money. Then.
I mean, I've watched a bunch of reviews about this movie too, and those 2 letters of transit are what Hitchcock and his universe would call a MacGuffin.
Yep. Just a plot device to move something forward, right?
Again. Right. It's like a device. It's like, it's basically a narrative device that everyone wants, and it's like it drives the central story.
The Force is a MacGuffin.
The arguments that I've heard against it is like, even if they had these letters of transit, why would the German government just allow someone to leave, no matter who it's signed by?
True.
Exactly.
And on top of that, why would they even allow Laszlo, like, to stay? Like, they would just arrest him on site. There's no reason they would let him stay.
Right. Well, I think it's because they didn't have jurisdiction. It was still
also
free
like,
territory.
You have to have some what is it, like benefit of doubt, or what's the phrase? You have to kind of
suspension of belief.
Suspension of disbelief. Yeah, you have to have some kind of to watch any movie. But this movie doesn't have nearly as many like crazy offenses as like Roadhouse.
So yeah. I'm hanging on Ugarte for a bit because the Ugarte and Rick conversation has my favorite shot in the whole movie. And it is when they go upstairs into Rick's office to talk about these letters of transit, right? And at one point, we're like at the top of a staircase or whatever. I guess the door's upstairs or something. I don't exactly know how that worked, but we're pushed back, so the camera's like in the back of the room and the shot's happening in the front. Ugarte's on the left, and Rick is on the right, and then Rick goes out of frame, off to the right. But he's shadowed by a spotlight coming from back right, and we're just watching his shadow. Oh, that was Renault?
Yeah, it was when Renault and Rick are talking outside, and Renault's kind of like hinting that he might be, a little bit more sentimental towards the cause than he lets on. And then the guy comes out, and he's like, "Hey, I lost money in the gambling." So they go up to the room to get the money. But yeah. That's a great scene.
Anyway, that shot of Rick in shadow, and they do it twice. He comes back into frame and then leaves again. And I'm like, oh, that's when I was like... And then they do
another one where they follow them towards like the foreground. And it's like, dude, that's why I was like, God, this is really... Every single shot, there's not like... There's no dead scenes. That's why, like, even making the outline for this, I was like, every single scene feels important. Every single scene... There's no fluff in this movie.
No.
There's like every single scene drives the narrative, drives the plot forward, and I was like, even like it took me forever to write the outline because I was like, this is every single thing seems important. Even characters you meet in the very beginning, like when that hokey plane flies over, that's obviously like a back projected screen, and the family's like,
that made me laugh.
The women are like, hopefully we'll be on that. Like they come back over and over again throughout the story and are echoed through it. So it's like there's so much intentionality in this, in the fact that they were rushing to make this. It's crazy that they were able to do this so well.
Carl's outline was 2 pages.
But I've heard like this was like the like pinnacle of like, classic Hollywood styling with like the perfect crew to kind of, establish, like to disseminate or whatever so like it's like it was just the perfect movie to come out during the time. Like everything about it just like kind of happened perfectly, I guess. A little nice little ribbon,
Nick, what were you gonna
Some
say?
some people would say it's the best movie of all time.
I've heard that.
Man, when I was looking up lists, because originally this was just going to be a New Year's resolution, we'll have a show, and then I thought, what better does the world need than 4 more white people with a podcast? I'm looking up. The goal was quintessential films, so that I get references. You hear all the time, well, Casablanca was a really good movie, and it was, dude, it was in the top 5 at least of every list. The Godfather, Citizen Kane, movies like that. And Casablanca was always up there. So I was really excited to watch this movie. And man,
so I read that it has been seen like on TV and in the movie theaters. It's been seen more than any other film.
Yeah, and it was also one of the very first films.
I don't know how they calculate that.
Right. It was one of the very first films put into the National Archives for for cultural significance. They didn't say it was the first. They just said it was one of the first. So I mean, after it ended, I was like, of course.
Yeah.
And really after the first couple
the
shots,
timing though played a lot into it.
Well, yeah. I mean, if this is one of the first great movies.
No, I mean, like just the timing, like in history, like when World War II, like just the way that when it came out, the story, like that had it lined up perfectly. It was it was like a serendipitous stars aligning moment.
Yeah,
for this movie.
I even read some more modern and maybe negative, or critical, I should say, saying that this movie had a lot of propaganda behind it, like rah rah America.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just thinking about the song battle they had.
The song battle was good.
Oh, that was great.
Like, that was great cinema, but it's like definitely there's a message there, and I think it's hard. It can't not be propaganda if you have some kind of message, right?
Right. So anyway, we get the letters of transit from Ugarte. Rick does. He hides them in the piano with our boy Sam.
No one sees them.
Which seemed like a bad idea.
I didn't even see it.
What?
I didn't. I must have looked away.
Sir.
Maybe I was checking Twitter. I don't know. But because we'll get there.
Yeah, he just kind of lifts. He kind of lifts the top and puts the.
I saw him do it, and I was like,
he was really sneaky, is what I learned.
Yeah.
Then we got our boy Ferrari, the blue parrot owner.
Yeah.
He's selling a lot of. He's the one selling a lot of these tickets to people. Everybody's talk to Ferrari.
Some shady dealings.
My favorite thing with Ferrari is every scene that he had in the blue parrot, his spot was ended by the people walking away and Ferrari picking up a fly swatter and hitting a fly every single time. And I loved it. That was the best.
Yeah. I also saw somebody pointed out that Rick hardly ever wears a hat, but he always wears a hat when talking to Ferrari.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know what the significance is that. And I've heard, like, this is not, I'm too dumb to pick this up, but I've heard it's because Rick is like he's holding on to the American sort of cultural themes, whereas Ferrari is kind of adopting the local themes with like the hat that he was wearing. I don't know what it's called, but like the little cylinder kind of hat.
Yeah.
And so like they were kind of like the opposing one guy, holding. I don't know. Like that's one thing I heard, but
they definitely went out of their way. They definitely went out of their way to make him seem like that kind of character, where it's like he's this very no nonsense, like no BS, like.
That was another thing about
the
the dialogue in this movie. There was a lot of like talking around subjects. Like they would say enough to give you an answer, but not the answer you're looking for, but not an answer that could incriminate them. Like, and I don't know if that's just very film noir or whatever, which I think was also pretty popular at this time. But like everything they were saying, it was like when they were like, "What nationality are you?" And he's like, "I'm a drunkard." And it was like he would never tell them. He'd tell them an entertaining answer, enough
never
to kind of be like,
one.
okay, but never like what they wanted. And that was so. And I was like, God, the dialogue was so good. Because like I wish I could talk like that now. It's like just kind of saying it's like being more mysterious or more intriguing.
People
but
would be like, "What is wrong with this guy?"
They'd be like, "This guy just won't tell us anything."
What were you gonna say a second ago?
Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say that type of hat is called a fez, I believe. That's all I was gonna say.
Fez.
Don't quote me on that, but I think it's called a
the
fez.
Shriner's hat where they have the little tassel or whatever.
Yeah. So we've got
But
go ahead.
To your point, Carl, about him wearing a hat when he's around Ferrari.
Ferrari.
Yeah.
They definitely did stuff like that on purpose because I was doing some research and the love interest in the movie, Ilsa?
Ilsa.
How do we say her name?
Ilsa.
So in real life, she's taller than the guy who plays Rick.
What?
Yeah, Humphrey Bogart.
And
she was
so
5'9",
he was like,
and he was 5'7".
So he was like standing on pillows and standing on things to appear taller than her.
Yeah,
I love that.
Like, him wearing a hat around certain characters, like that was all very intentional to
Gotcha.
paint the picture of who
It's a
this guy
stature
was.
thing, yeah. Yeah, I heard about that, and I was like, you watch it again, and you see him kind of sitting down, and she is always kind of leaning, reclining, and he's always standing. And I was like, oh my god, it's because she's like she's like really just like a normal size, like 5'9" is kind of average, right?
5'9's pretty tall for a lady.
Pretty tall?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
still,
average
but
is 5'6", so
5'6".
Isn't,
Okay,
that,
well,
isn't that how tall you are?
I am 5'4".
You're 5'4". Crap.
okay,
I'm
well,
short.
Well, 5'9", yeah, but it's still pretty tall.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, 5'7", and this guy's like this. Yeah, you always hear, and with the old, was it Roadhouse? He's like, I expect you to be bigger. And it's like now it like really applies.
It happens with General Grievous and Anakin, and yeah.
It's just a common movie trope.
Little Star Wars.
So we go. We meet Laszlo and Ilsa. We know that Sam and Ilsa have this history or whatever. And Laszlo is he's a resistance leader, we gather. I don't remember from what country.
I think he's from Romania.
Yeah. Romania.
Or he was in Romania at some point.
Anyway, he's some resistance guy, really anti not playing the game that Rick's playing. He's not beating around the bush.
He ain't doing it.
He's picking sides.
He gets in trouble literally instantly.
He's not even using a fake name. He's just like, I'm going to walk into this restaurant full of Nazis and just be like, I'm Laszlo.
Yeah.
Frodo
This is one of the main
Baggins,
problems that I've seen people have with the movie is just that, like, in what world would he just be allowed to roam free?
In
Even
what
Rick,
world is there a song battle between the French and German
I'm
national
going to show
anthems?
these Nazis.
So,
I love that scene though. That scene is emotionally charged and it's beautiful.
One of the scenes that really struck me, and it involved Laszlo, is there's some dude walks up to him and asks him if he's interested in buying jewelry in the bar. Y'all remember this?
Yeah, the ring guy.
And he shows him the ring, and then Laszlo, some crap. I think that's when he gets in trouble with the German guy, and he's like, "Come to my office tomorrow at 10 o'clock." Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then Laszlo goes to the bar and finds Ring Guy again, whose name I will never remember. But I had to look up the ring because they kind of explain it, but they don't explain it super well. So it's a ring.
So the ring, yeah, good.
Yeah, it's a ring that has it's a cross, but with like two little crosses on it, and it's called the Cross of Lorraine. And in the war, it was the symbol of the Free French forces, led by Charles de Gaulle, and it was basically the French answer to the swastika. The French resistance's rather answer to the swastika. So that was their little symbol, I guess, of hey, I'm resistance too. You're not alone here.
In the time this movie was released, that was probably just common knowledge.
Probably.
Like what that was.
Yeah, I mean, if it's
probably why they didn't explain.
Right. They kind of did, but they kind of.
I assumed it was
something kind of, like that. Yeah. But yeah, that's
just
because
the way he was like, "Oh yes, I'm very interested." I was like, "Okay, well, this is obviously like the other side."
This is also when I wrote around that time. There was some up close shot of Rick, and I wrote I don't know if I 100% stand by with Monday Night Cameron's assessment of this, but I wrote Rick has an Anthony Bourdain-ness to his face. Kind
he
of
reminds
like
me of somebody. You know what?
You're right.
I almost thought it was Sebastian Maniscalco for a second.
Okay.
He's got a little bit of that in his face, but not in his delivery or expression or tone at all.
He just had
he's much more monotone in his delivery.
His face is just kind of long and thin with like really knowledgeable or like knowing eyes, kind of like Bourdain had. I don't know. That's who he reminded me of.
Yeah,
I see it.
And then we've got the song. We've got Ilsa. While Laszlo's at the bar, Ilsa's just kind of chilling next to Sam. And Sam's like, "Never thought I'd see you again," and all kinds of whatever. They have some catch-up dialogue in which Ilsa like all but twists his arm into playing this song.
Yeah, that was almost uncomfortable the way she was like.
It was bad because she's like,
"You're making him. Stop making him do this. He doesn't want to do it. He already told you you're bad luck." Like
she makes him play it. And then she makes him sing it, and this dude's like, I do not want to do this. And we learn when Rick like busts in from the casino or wherever he is and is like, I thought I told you, Sam, to never play that song again, and then cuts himself off when he sees Ilsa.
They lock eyes.
Then they lock eyes, and there's some awkwardness.
That's when we first learned that, oh crap, they know each other.
Yeah.
Former lover.
And this kind of ties. Nick, did you have any like facts about the lighting?
No.
Okay, so I watched a bunch of reviews because I'm so stupid. So one thing that they pointed out was that the lighting was so intentional. So you have Rick a lot of the times is shown in shadow to show that his confliction with like his kind of like with it. So that was like in the hat. The hat motif is also a device they used back in old Hollywood to kind of cast meaningful shadow across someone's face to kind of imply sort of that feeling. And then on top of that, Ilsa's lighting was very soft. They used a gauze to kind of filter it, so she almost had a airbrushed look, like an impossible tenderness to her face. And then even they added lights to her eyes to give her like this impossible sparkle in her eyes. So it was like this kind of very deity.
I know.
I mean, she was beautiful.
She felt filtered. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and she even it was even her left side of her face, like 3/4 angle, which she felt was her good side. So like they were really deliberate with that. And on top, so they had it was often anytime there was conflict, they were kind of in shadow. There was also a motif that they showed throughout the movie with bars. So like they were both wearing stripes. She had a striped shirt, he had a striped tie, I think. And they were out at the the bazaar. When they were looking at the rug tapestry, and there was also like striped lighting. The blinds also kind of made this bar motif to show that they were kind of in this prison.
Okay.
So it was that was interesting to see, kind of broken up throughout the movie. And then Laszlo was almost always kind of given this spotlight, this like shining bright impossible light compared to everyone else, because he was like this beacon for the movement. So that was interesting to see. Like I never really noticed it. I mean, I kind of saw the bars, but I didn't really get the rest of that stuff. So that was interesting to see broken down.
I was too busy trying to figure out what they were saying and just understanding.
Dude, yeah, the dialogue,
what they were saying to pick up on any of that.
The old English way of talking, where it was like, the roundaboutness of it all. It was a lot to. Now everything is just like like memes, like so much. Yeah,
I like totally love you.
World.
And we got right after all this kind of happens. We have some more ancillary scenes, but we have our first flashback. Where we go to Life Was Good in Paris, and then we learn that she kind of just ditched him.
Sad.
We don't learn why yet, but we learn that she just ditched him as they were going to make their escape from France.
But before that, we had our first instance of one of the most famous movie lines.
That's right.
He is looking at you, kid.
I did not know this was the movie it was from.
And it said
and the same
3 or 4 times.
Play It Again, Sam, which is never...
Play It Again,
everyone
Sam,
says Play It Again, Sam, which is not in the movie, but Play It Again, or Play It, Sam.
Yeah.
And Play It Again. If she can take it, I can.
Yeah.
I was surprised that they say it
I didn't know
times.
that one, but I knew the play.
No, yeah, they said it 3 or 4 times. I thought it was just going to be the first time that it kept happening.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be an end. So when it came out here, I was like, I thought this was like the end of the movie.
That's one of those like lines that you would see on, when whatever TV channel is having a movie marathon, and they'd show the quick like Casablanca cut for the Here's Looking at You kid.
That's like the the bite-sized morsel for the movie. It's like to hear that the entire thing, how it goes.
So that was a cool flashback. Then we get drunk Rick.
Poor Rick, heartbroken Rick.
Heartbroken Rick.
Rick and Morty, how drunk he was. Yeah,
he has a terrible interaction with Ilsa. All that malarkey.
He basically calls her a whore, and she can't stand for that.
And then we've got the meeting with Laszlo, and was it?
I think it was with the police.
The police, yeah. What's the German?
The next morning?
Name? Yeah, the next
Renault?
day. Renault, and then
Renault and Strasser.
Strasser's the German guy, right?
Yes.
And then Renault is our kind of like.
He's the precinct of the French
chief.
police,
right?
Which he's French, but he has the British accent, which threw me off because throughout the movie.
And
from
from Canada.
I hope I'm not stepping on one of your facts, Nick, but there was a lot of actual immigrants in this movie that gave their native accents to it. So that lended it to a more believable performance, which like it's another one of those serendipitous like.
It's pretty cool.
The timing of this movie, it's like there was already a lot of kind of immigrants in California in the making of it, which is crazy. But
yeah. Let me see here. We got during that, it's kind of an intimidation talk. They basically tell Laszlo like, you're not leaving ever.
Yep.
Because and then they inform him that our boy Ugarte died.
Yeah. And they give him the ultimatum too: if you give us names of the other resistance leaders, we'll let you go, kind of, but he won't give it up. Because he's the white hat, the morally incorruptible hero.
Then we cut to the market, more kind of bizarre scenes. I think that's when Ilsa tells Rick that Laszlo is her husband for the first time.
I think so.
Which is the first big drop, right, of the movie?
That's the first big drop of the movie, yeah.
Because you're like, oh.
That's when things kind of start.
She tells him not just he's my husband, but he was my husband when we were in
Paris.
We were
in France, yeah.
Do we ever get a breakdown of how long they were in Paris? Because, like, I don't want to be this guy, but it seems like he's making a mountain out of a molehill kind of thing. Like
that's the impression I got. Like, he wasn't there for very long. So she's like, it was this fling.
And I get the romanticizing of it all. You're in Paris, it's true love, and you have this thing. But still, it's just like, you knew her for like, maybe 5 weeks, and you were already ready to propose to this woman, and then like it just seemed, and then like once she leaves, you're just downtrodden. Yeah, it just seemed a little much, but I guess that's that's film. That's
yeah, and then
it goes.
Then we have another Ferrari scene with Laszlo and Ilsa, and they're like, one of you can leave, and they refuse, and then that's when Ferrari spills the beans that Rick has those letters of transit. So it sets us up to have more kind of confrontation, once again with this whole MacGuffin, more interaction between Laszlo, Ilsa, and Rick. So then we have this weird like B story of that like young foreign lady asking Rick for help at the bar and to get them out and blah blah blah. And he's like, "You want my advice? Stay in Casablanca." And her husband's just like sucking at roulette. I think I had a note for Nick here.
22.
I think I had a note. They're playing roulette.
22?
No, they're playing roulette. Nick will have tickets to Vegas by the time the credits roll.
But I already want to go to Vegas, man.
Roulette's your game. I'm like, roulette
right now.
Nick is locked in for this one. And then Rick. We learned that Rick is rigging roulette.
He rigs it for number 22.
But to give the people the money.
22 is the most well-kept secret in this whole, like, everything. News travels so fast. They already know who's got what letters of transit, but no one knows about this 22.
Yeah, we have we have more comedy with when they shut the bar down later in the movie. He's like, I'm shutting this place down for illegal gambling. And then some guy comes out, here's your winnings.
Yeah. He's like, thank you. Yeah.
It's so funny.
I love, Renault is maybe my favorite character. Moral, upstandings aside or whatever.
Yeah.
But he, like, because I think, I don't want to get too far ahead of the movie, but he just seems like he's kind of the barometer for the audience. Like when he's he's like a secondary character where like, when Rick sits down with Ilsa and Laszlo for a drink, he's like, a precedent is being broken, and like lets us as the audience know this is a big deal. If we didn't pick up on it already.
Yeah.
And then like the way that and that's another thing I picked, watching these reviews because I'm so dumb. Everyone was kind of talking about how all the other characters are kind of a barometer for like, a goalpost for Rick. Like they'll be like, I don't think you believe what you're saying. And it gives us as an audience like a cue into where Rick is with his internal dilemma. And I don't know if this is like, English teachers finding meaning where there isn't meaning.
Right.
Well, it does kind of key us into what Rick is thinking while allowing him to maintain mystery and moral ambiguity.
Yeah, because that's way more exciting, obviously. And more
so,
fun as the character. Because, like, you don't, even with, what's his name, Laszlo being like the obvious hero, we still don't like him. He's boring.
Right.
We like Rick. Like, we want Ilsa to be with Rick, even though, like, he's a he's a good guy.
Listen,
like,
in movies, I always go for the good guy. I never go for the mysterious guy. Like Phantom of the Opera, no, I'm on Ralph's side. 100%.
I don't know either.
You guys don't know. You uneducated. 2024,
Add it
Phantom
to
of the
list.
Opera.
2020.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Guys, Phantom of the Opera. Anyways, not just that though, but anyways, side note should just be like, I love the good guy.
Well, and so past this point is when like we get the anthem fight, which we've alluded to previously, where Rick comes out from the casino after he's helped that young lady by telling her husband to bet on 22 two times and then put your money away, please. And
never come back.
Sam has been his piano has been commandeered by Nazis. The Nazis are at it again, and they've stolen our boy's piano, and they're playing.
The tickets?
They're still in the piano at that point.
Those tickets are still in the
so.
piano.
They're right in front of them.
Which is maybe a real point of tension that I didn't feel until maybe just now.
Yeah, so the tickets are in the piano. The Nazis
Yeah.
are playing, I guess, the German anthem, and then Laszlo, ever the resistance boy, goes over to just a spare band that's chilling in the corner, and
I was like, "Where's this? Why is this other group not playing music?"
He starts singing the French anthem, and then the whole crowd joins in, and they're having like a rap battle, like real loud at the same time as each other. And it's a great scene, and it also
that was chilling.
It was great, and it gave us the excuse that the movie needed to shut the cafe down and kind of move things along, because then the Germans are like, you know, they have Renault shut it down for illegal gambling, which is when that hilarious part where the gamble master, or whatever they're called, brings him his winnings. And that's when I believe they ransacked the bar after that. And we're like, oh my God,
letters, which they
the
never
letters,
looked at the piano,
they never
I
look
guess,
in the
but,
piano.
Yeah, whatever.
That's just crazy to me. Like, they wouldn't open the piano. Come on.
They're not musical.
Yep.
Anyway.
And then we have the cafe shut down. Laszlo and Ilsa confide in one another, and Laszlo leaves for his secret meeting after just, I guess, hoping a Nazi isn't standing behind a pillar that he was standing in front of 45 seconds before.
Most casual wanted man in the world. He's just like, yeah, sure.
I'm going to my meeting.
I'm not going to take a back way.
Yeah.
Nerd.
And then downstairs, we've got Rick. Ever the good guy. Carl and Rick are going over the finances, and they leave everybody on payroll for 3 weeks. I think he said they had enough money to do that for.
That's another nice thing. This movie does, like, indirectly telling you Rick's good. You know, like when Ferrari tries to buy Sam, he's like, I'm not in the business of dealing with people or selling people. So like he makes it Sam's choice. So we're cued in all throughout the movie that, like, you know, Rick is obviously a good guy,
right?
But, like, without directly saying it, which is another one of these things the movie does so well, which I think like lends itself to why it's so well reviewed.
Right. And then we once Laszlo leaves, we get a shot of Ilsa kind of putting her coat on and leaving. She somehow, like, I don't know, climbs a fire escape and gets into Rick's bedroom.
It's because of her 5'9" height.
That's right. She doesn't have to stand on a pillow.
She can step into the window
up because she was already at the second window.
Just lifted her leg up and in. And then
what are you doing here? Hey?
She confronts Rick. You know, they have she tries to get the letter. She pulls a gun on Rick, which was wild.
That was wild.
That was the first big twist, I felt like, because I was like, "Oh shit, this has gotten crazy."
Yeah,
I didn't expect that kind of twist in an older movie like this.
Nick, what were you gonna say?
It was a twist, but I didn't believe it for a second. I was like, "There's no."
I mean, yeah,
but you gotta have the drama.
Pull the trigger.
You gotta have the drama. The heightened drama was real.
And he felt the same way too.
Opera. Yeah.
You could tell he saw her pull the gun and was like, okay.
Is that when we got...
All right, you crazy woman.
Is that when we got the whole... She explained more of her past, that Laszlo... That's when she's like, I thought Laszlo was dead, which is why we were hanging out in Paris.
Yeah.
But then I learned that Laszlo wasn't dead, which is why I was conflicted and didn't and ditched you at the
And he was injured. He was like injured and she had to go take care of him.
She had to take care of him.
Which, you know,
they have a smooch. It was weird.
So something I noticed was in this scene, I think it was this scene, there was an I love you, I know in reverse. He said I love you and she said I know. And I just thought that was kind of cool because I felt like Han Solo vibes from Rick the whole movie. And then like definitely. That reverse like I love you moment, I was like, okay, I don't know.
I wonder if he pulled from that because Lucas.
That's what I
Spielberg were
wondered.
both big film buffs. I mean, surely. I mean, these archetypes are pretty established.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. That's great.
And then after that, we cut to the secret meeting. We cut to Laszlo and Carl kind of running away from a German car that just completely misses like a fat man and a foreigner running away.
Yeah, a well-known foreigner.
Right,
Like-
in a stripy suit. And then we kind of get, so Laszlo gets arrested, and then we've got Rick that goes to Renault and confronts him about the Laszlo arrest, proposes a deal that was basically like, hey, if you let Laszlo go, I'll get him arrested on even bigger charges. And then we get the it wasn't like a triple cross, but we get like, oh,
Kind of.
what is Rick doing? Kind of like he tells
I was like,
three,
oh my God.
he tells
this is how
three
this
groups of
movie ends?
people 3 different things,
Yeah.
and they're all lies. And that's when the movie, I was like, oh, this third act is crazy, man.
Yeah,
And
it really
that's about
ramps
the
up.
time. That's about the time where I hit pause. I had my headphones on, took my headphones off. I was like, all right, take a breath. I'm losing focus. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Like I just got to take a second. So there's at the very beginning of the movie, there's a really funny scene where a waiter walks up to these people at a table and they're like at a restaurant eating outside and they see a plane.
Yeah,
And the waiter's like,
this.
have you heard what's happening? And
Yeah.
they go, we hear very little and we understand even less.
That's you the whole
And
movie.
that was me the second half of this movie. Like,
I like
hear
it.
very little and I understand even less. There's
You
like
pause the
3
movie and
different
you're like,
stories
what's
that
my
he's telling
wallet?
here. I was not
I
following.
seem to have forgotten my mind's wallet. I'm like,
What?
oh, man. And so
What a funny little fellow.
help me get this straight, because I
Okay.
can't exactly remember what happens. So he takes Laszlo and tells Renault, I'll get Laszlo and we'll get even bigger charges. I don't remember what he tells Laszlo.
So
We don't know.
I don't think they cut. It's implied
don't
that
know.
like he goes to Laszlo while he's in the cell and explains it to him, and I guess they let him out on good behavior, like in anticipation of this plan.
In anticipation of the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got, he pulls a gun on Renault while Renault is...
First he's got they.
Oh, they stage him with buying the
Laszlo
letters
meets
of
him
transit.
he gives him the letters of transit, and then Renault is there, and he pops up, and he's like, and basically Renault's like, you might be surprised or whatever, but Ricky's, Ricky he called him, is like on the side of love, I guess, and he's like choosing his woman over his morals,
Yeah.
basically. And then when Renault turns around to like, as he's talking, like that's when we see that.
That's when Rick
Rick's got
pulls-
the gun pulled on him.
Rick's got the
Yeah.
gun on Renault and tells Renault to dial the airport and tell them
Yeah.
that they've got 2 passengers leaving to, I don't remember where they go to, somewhere in South America first, right?
Lebanon?
Peru.
Lebanon?
Not
Peru.
Peru. Not Peru. Portugal.
Portugal.
I thought it was some L word that.
It was
then there
Lisbon, which is in
okay,
Portugal.
okay.
Fun fact.
Gotcha.
Okay,
All right, nice.
so he's
Geography.
like, let the airport know. But Renault calls Strasser, which was wild to me because I'm like, he had kind of been playing both sides.
Yeah.
Right.
And that seemed like a firm, like almost a heel turn, which we get him back in the
Yeah.
end. Spoilers, but that was interesting
But
to
he's
me.
playing his safety.
That-
He's like,
you're
I
right,
don't know,
you're
I'll get in
right.
trouble. He's always playing him.
You're right, which is
So
what Rick is
I don't
doing.
know. Yeah.
So then we've got that, and Rick takes Ilsa and Laszlo to the airport. I guess Renault's there too, because
I
he's
think
at the
so.
airport at the end.
Yeah.
And then we
At
learn
that second break where they're like, first they're at the one place, and then they're in a car going somewhere. Like, how
Yeah.
did this transpire? But I guess you
I
can
don't
just
know. So
keep
that-
holding a gun to his back. or
we
whatever.
get to the airport and we have way too much dialogue while we know that Strasser and the Nazis are coming.
It's a
and-
long
Like,
way.
how far away are they?
And then we
Yeah.
learn like the third twist to Rick's plan, which is that he's actually going to give the tickets to Laszlo and Ilsa. He just had to, I guess, felt like he had to get Ilsa to the airport. Like,
Probably.
you're getting
yeah,
on
there's
the
no way
plane.
she would have
to get her to
she wouldn't
leave.
have, I'm guessing.
So they leave. Strasser arrives and tries to phone the radio tower to stop the plane, and Rick just shoots him. Just
Again.
shoots him, and I was like, "Whoa!"
again, in very Han Solo style, because they go to shoot each other, right?
Yeah, it reminded me of the Greedo.
And I'm like, oh my, who shot first?
Yeah.
There was a second
I thought that
like,
Rick was going to be hit.
Shot.
Because in my mind, Strasser shot and missed, and then Rick just was a better shot.
It was a Han Solo Greedo moment in that way, but I thought we were gonna have a delay because Strasser took 80 years to fall down. I thought we were gonna have a delayed Rick reaction, but we didn't. We had a Renault calls the rest of the, I don't know if they're the Vichy guys or the Nazis. I guess they're
the Nazis.
I guess they're one and the same. For all intents and
it
purposes,
the French police or just
and
Strasser's guys.
He tells them that, hey, Strasser's been murdered. Round up the usual suspects, which was the BS that they used at the beginning of the film. Once the couriers had been killed.
What is it? One of those cliche lines that you hear in movies now.
And then
the usual suspects.
The very end, we have a line that is repeated all over cinema, and I bet I don't 100% know that it was coined for this movie, but he says I feel like this is going to be the beginning of a beautiful friendship or whatever the exact quote is, and that's the last line of the movie, and they just kind of walk out of frame, and classic
they
line.
go join the resistance.
That third act was wild.
It really stamped on the gas. Because
I thought for sure, I was like, Rick is really going to do this. I was like, I can't believe this movie's so held up. And then when he switched, I was like, oh my God. And then when Renault switched, I was even more impressed because I was like, this is a guy who's probably more self-interested than Rick. Like, he has no love of his life. He's just kind of getting some side flings with these, like, letters of transit situations with these women. So when he switched, I was like, God, I want the sequel so bad.
Right.
Like, I want them. Like, I was like, man, like, that would be a
buddy.
Well, and they tried to make sequels.
To watch that.
They tried to make sequels, and they couldn't get anything off the ground, script-wise. Nick, do you have anything on that, or?
No, they did. They tried to do a couple sequels, and then they even did some TV shows later.
Yeah.
And there were a couple TV shows that just flopped and got canceled.
Nothing that they did really worked after. They couldn't recapture that lightning
really
in the bottle.
Helped it so much. Yeah, lighting in a bottle.
So, okay, I'm so interested to get star ratings from everybody. By the way, I think at least Nick, Carl, and I are on Letterboxd. Kind of to keep track of these movies.
I still haven't finished my Roadhouse review. I'm so bad with words.
But
I want to join.
Get on Letterboxd,
I'll
bro.
get on Letterboxd.
I just kind of wanted it to help me remember once have everything in one place. Yeah. Podcast aside, so I won't start. I kind of want Carl to start.
God, okay.
No pressure.
I'm torn right now between. I didn't know what to expect going into this movie. Really enjoyed it. I maybe watched it 6 times or 5 times.
Really?
Just, a couple times.
That's why you make the outlines
on the background. Because it takes me so much time to absorb everything that's happening. There's a lot.
Right.
Like, with this movie, there was so much nuance, even with just the lighting, with the camera movement. So I had to watch it a bunch, and I was like, man, this is really actually masterfully done.
Sure.
And I think, 3 of us on this call are designers, so it's nice to kind of look at it from a design perspective and be like, look how they're doing the lighting, look how they're setting up the stage. It was very Wes Anderson at some points, which I guess this movie is. Yeah, Wes Anderson is very Casablanca.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see that kind of motif still followed today and be like, wow, it's still impactful. I'm torn between giving this a 4 and a 4.5.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I'm still so fresh in movies. That I don't know if I've heard Citizen Kane is the best movie of all time. I haven't heard of Casablanca except for once we got into this,
Sure.
So maybe Casablanca is a 4.5, not a 5.
We can have multiple movie, 5s though.
Because but what's a perfect movie? Even with this movie, I was like, the Letters of Transit is an interesting MacGuffin. There's a plot device. The fact that Rick is allowed to kind of roam free. The fact that Laszlo isn't arrested on site. There's a lot of, stuff that we're kind of letting blow over. Is it a perfect movie? No, but I've enjoyed it every time I've watched it.
Yeah.
Fuck. I'm gonna give it.
Go with your gut.
Here we go.
A 4.5.
All right. 4.5. Danielle, I want Nick to go last because he hates it.
Okay.
Danielle, you go.
All right.
I'll just sit here and fume.
Yeah.
I'm kind of torn too because it is hard, like starting off strong at the beginning. But I've seen a decent amount of movies,
Sure.
and I didn't have like any moments of like boredom or annoyance. Like I get really annoyed with some movies, as you'll hear later on throughout this journey.
Yep.
I also really liked the line "We'll always have Paris." I went through
That
the
was a good line.
classic teenage girl, I love Paris phase, and you hear that line and you see it on posters a lot. So now seeing like where it came from was cool. So I think I'm gonna give it a 4.
Okay.
4 out of 5. I like the romance, I like the drama.
All
Yeah.
right. I lied. I want Nick to go next. I'm so excited for this.
Cheater.
So here's the thing.
Oh boy.
So my go-to with movies in general is to, and probably with a lot of what we're going to do on here, is not watch the trailer, not have any kind of context going in.
Yeah.
That worked against me here.
Okay.
I was confused half the time. At first, I was like, oh, it's a war movie. Well, no, it's a love story.
It's both.
My beef is, it is both. But, like, the love story could be its own thing without the politics and be good. And the politics was its own thing. I don't feel like they went together well. It felt...
I
don't know.
disagree.
The politics gave meaning to the romance. That was the reason they couldn't be together because of the war. They had to choose the morally upright thing.
Right.
He couldn't be with her because she was his Laszlo's muse, basically. That was what kept Laszlo going, and the cause that was bigger than all of them. He said, like, what did he say? The trivial, whatever, the lives of 3. It does make a hill of beans or whatever the quote was.
Yeah.
So it's like that was the that's what makes this movie culturally significant. Is like there are things that are bigger than us that outweigh our decisions.
Yeah, I don't think you can crowbar this specific love story away from the war setting and have even anywhere close to the same movie. Nor do I think that this war story alone would be anything.
That's my opinion.
But star rating.
Yeah. What's the verdict here? I'm excited to see this.
Again, I was just kind of confused at the end. I didn't like the politics and the love story and like half of this podcast was you guys going, okay, well, there were certain things in the movie you have to just ignore because it just helped the story go on. Like,
well, that's what a MacGuffin
okay, but
is.
have you seen the MCU?
Not as many as Roadhouse.
The Force, Nick?
We have to admit.
No, this is your opinion, though, Nick.
Yeah.
This
No,
is your
it's your
opinion.
opinion.
No, I'll give it a 2.5.
Wow.
Wow. You might be the first negative review.
I know
of this movie
I'm going
ever.
against the entire world.
Love it.
But you're a
Well, I
non-movie
love it.
person,
Here we are.
I
so
want to read the whole dissertation about it.
All right. I'll wrap it up.
2.5.
Maybe it'd be different if I watched it again with more.
No, but I love the first
But I'm
impression.
not gonna do that.
That's what the show's about. That's what the show's about. So, I loved it.
2.5. Wow.
The cinematography was beautiful. I loved the lines. I love old movie pacing. I find new movies very stressful with all the cuts and everything has to be intense and the score has to be just make you want to pee your pants and whatever. I really like the longer shots. You know, the slower pacing overall. I love that. I wrote in my notes obvious 5 stars, but I think I'm gonna give it. I think I'm also gonna go 4.5.
Yeah.
Because I think there will definitely be movies that I like more, but it's an obvious classic. Once I watched it, I went, of course, it's so acclaimed. I loved it. I will 100% watch it again. And one more fact at the end, Nick. I mentioned White Christmas earlier. Same director.
It was funny after watching this HBO Max. The first movie recommended me The Maltese Falcon, so I was like, "Oh, I want to."
So Maltese Falcon was Humphrey Bogart's breakout role.
Okay.
So we're gonna see Humphrey Bogart in
Right.
Maltese Falcon and also African Queen.
Awesome.
So we have a couple other Humphrey Bogart movies to look forward to, which I'm very excited about.
A little too old for her.
Oh, what's
Like,
that
the
one
where
movie?
She was like, was it doing your what? Where
Yeah,
were you 10
but
years
that's
ago? 10 years
just
ago, I was
welcome to
gonna break
Hollywood.
somebody.
Welcome to
Yeah,
Hollywood.
but
Men
he
always get
seemed-
younger women.
He
It's
seemed
not fair.
like there were times when we would zoom on him and I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, this guy's like 60.
What's that one movie you always talk about where the age difference is egregious?
Funny Face, starring Fred Astaire and Audrey Hepburn.
And what's the age gap?
I
there?
don't know, but it's
I
real
haven't
bad.
seen any Audrey.
Oh my God.
Aubrey Hepburn.
2024.
We're
Let's
gonna,
go.
we're gonna see a Catherine
Breakfast
Hepburn.
We don't
at
have
Tiffany's.
any. We don't have any Audrey Hepburn on this movie list.
We have a Catherine Hepburn with
We
African
do.
Queen. All right, I'm
Is
gonna.
that her sister or
It's
daughter?
sister.
Okay.
Sister?
I don't know.
I think it's sister.
That's
What are
me.
It's not
we
daughter.
pulling? Oh boy. I'm
All right.
excited.
Speaking of that,
I
we're
really
going-
want a Western.
I can't. I can't even say. What I will say is, I know this is supposed to be a totally random poll. If we pull Maltese Falcon or something else old, I'm gonna re-poll because I don't want to watch two movies from the 40s back to
Fair
back
is fair.
and put our unless our audience is like 82 years old, put everybody to
Maybe
sleep.
they are.
We got June Barrett watching.
We're
Just a
big in the
bunch of
nursing
old
homes.
souls.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. Are we ready?
The
I'm
big
ready.
room's on.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
I don't know if this one's old or not. We're
What
just
is
probably gonna have to. I pulled Gangs of New York.
Oh no! That's a good one.
Oh.
Yeah. That, it's
2002.
Like,
I've seen that one.
Oh,
2000.
really?
I have seen that one.
2002. Daniel Day-Lewis.
it's a good movie.
Leonardo DiCaprio, Cameron Diaz, Liam Neeson.
If anything,
Okay.
it's a
I
perfect-
like those
it's
people.
a good middle balance between Roadhouse and Casablanca. It's like a almost dead center. It's like kind of
Interesting.
a little campy, a little historical. It's a good middle ground, I think.
I believe it was a David Ward recommendation.
It might have been.
So we'll have him to thank. We also have him to thank for the idea of the podcast.
Shout out to David Ward.
And that's all I'm going to thank. I will thank Danielle, Carl, Nick for doing this stupid podcast with me. Sorry, Nick, we made you watch a very old movie that you didn't like.
You know what? I appreciate it for what it is.
Not really.
And what
no.
it is to you
That's all I
is
can say.
2.5
That's all I can
stars.
say.
You do.
It meant a lot to a lot of people. You know?